All right, guys and girls, we know that electric cars are not going away, and the biggest problem we see in the industry is the bloody chargers, the power points. We've got the ultimate solution.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Wawa. Billy, tell us what we have today.
Couple of special guests specializing in the electric car space field. But this is such a hot topic. You know, we're finding buyers, sellers, selecting properties as to where they can charge their electric car. They don't want to give them up. They're like children.
So we've got the entrepreneurs of the industry, Merrich and Yaesmin from Alchemy Charge. Guys, thank you so much for coming on, and boy, do you have a solution.
Morning. Happy to be here. Excited to be here.
Is Merrich the most nervous person in this out of these four people?
Not at all. I reckon Billy might be. He's going a bit red.
I'm not blushing. It's extreme sunburn.
Oh my God, what happened to your face, Billy?
Are you talking about the sunglasses inlay or the just the color of it? I got a bit too excited in the sun yesterday. After 4 weeks of having no sun, I just went crazy.
Look at your ears.
Yeah, it's all pretty bad.
It's like you've been burnt by an EV charger. Good luck.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
So, guys,
Slop slap campaign.
It is. So, guys, you've got this great solution. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So we purchased our first electric vehicle about 3.5, 4 years ago now. And when Merrich was going to do the purchase, he was obviously trying to convince me. Merrich is lucky enough to be my co-founder and husband of almost 18 years. So we make these decisions together. It was at that point that I said, okay, you're getting an electric vehicle. How do you plan on charging it? And he said, from the power point in our garage. And I kind of thought, sure, mate, you're just pulling my leg. You just want a fancy new car. But it works out it was true. And that's exactly what he did. We purchased our first Tesla, and he only ever charged it from the power point in our garage. And having a background in remedial building, Merrich is a remedial builder, we thought, okay, here we go. We've worked with apartments for the last 15 years. Electric vehicles are on the rise. This is a match made in heaven. Let's go. Little did we know that our path wouldn't be so linear. So we went to someone who is now one of our competitors and said, we're shopping for an electric vehicle charger for our facility here in Brookvale. And we pointed at one that we liked, and the guy kind of just laughed, didn't he, Merrich?
Yeah, he did. And he goes, look, we turned around and said, look, we like the look of that one. How much is it? And he laughed. He goes, look, don't worry about how much power do you have? And we've got 300 amp at our facility, so we thought that should be decent enough. And he laughed. He goes, no, you need around 1,000 amp for that particular charger. Wow. So it was that moment we said, okay, what do you have that'll be suitable? And he took us this tiny little charger on the wall, and we laughed and we said, okay, what are you doing in the strata space? And it was at that point in time he turned around and said, look, strata's a hard sell. There's 4 issues. And 1, the hardware's too expensive. 2, the installation costs can be blown out. The infrastructure is just non-existent. So when you look at these older buildings, they just don't have the capacity to put these level 2 chargers in. And at the end of the day, when you go to do these installations, you got to bear in mind that every resident has got to fork the bill for that. You know what I mean? So it needs to be an economical solution.
Yeah.
So this is when Yaz and I put our minds together and came up with our Alchemy Charge Smart Point.
Yeah, so we looked at some mature markets. So we looked at Europe, and we specifically looked at Norway and what are they doing over there? They're probably about 7 to 10 years ahead of us in the adoption curve. And what we came across was some really interesting statistics in that 95% of charging is done either at home or in the workplace. And of that 95%, 63% is done by your portable charge cable. And it's probably at this point that I should kind of delve a little bit more into the different levels of charging, because I know that that can be a little bit overwhelming, especially when you initially start looking into EVs and how you're going to support them if you do go through with the purchase. So there's levels 1, 2, and 3. Level 3 is the super fast stuff. It kind of, it resembles what Billy has in his background there. So we're talking 350 kilowatts. It's what's on the side of the freeway, and you get a super fast charge. In some instances, you can go from 0 to 80% in like 16 minutes. It's amazing. Level 2 is what you see out and about in your shopping centres. So, if we pop down to the mall, the car park that's below the valet, there's like 4 Tesla chargers on a wall there. They're always taken. But, they're the level 2 chargers. So we're talking 7 to 22 kilowatts. And level 1 is what you refer to as charging with your portable charge cable. Most cars in Australia come with one of these in the boot, and all you do is you plug it into your standard Australian power point. So if we take a step back and we look at Australian driving behaviour, the average Aussie travels 38 kilometres a day, and I'm kind of no different. All I do is I drop the kids off at school and I come into the office, I work all day, I might go to the gym at some point, pick up my children and go home. That's what I do 99% of the time. Every now and then we might do a trip from Sydney to Canberra or Sydney to Brisbane in a day because we're crazy like that. But, for the most part, it's just 38 kilometres a day. And I've lost my train of thought, of course. I started ranting.
Yeah, but that 38 kilometres a day equates to around 3 hours of charging.
3 hours. On what level?
On level 1. So level 1 cable, you get between 10 and 16 kilometres an hour of charge, depending on your vehicle. So generally 2 to 3 hours is enough to keep your car fully topped up.
Yep.
And when you're charging your car, it's like charging the
all right, but the problem is that a lot of Australians don't have a PowerPoint in their garage because they don't have a garage, or they don't have a PowerPoint in their house because they don't have a house. So if they're in a unit, or if they're in a townhouse, how do you guys find a solution for that with a
we got a
SmartPoint?
solution for you, Mark.
Oh, I love. They always make me happy when I see those.
That's it.
I don't know why. Look at that. Okay. And I like that one because you can put a padlock on it.
Tell us more.
All right, Merrick, do you want to go through it?
So essentially what we have here is we refer to it as our SmartPoint. So it is a monetized PowerPoint. So it's a pay-per-use PowerPoint. So what you do is, let's use Strata for an example. So if you live in an apartment building, you want an EV or you have an EV, you apply to the owners corporation to get one of these installed. Because it's a PowerPoint, you don't need a special resolution, so you don't need to have an AGM. The owners corporation is free to actually approve the installation of one of these. So you get one installed that connects to house power. So it doesn't actually need to even connect to the unit owner's own power. So once it's connected to house power, we do all the collection of the funds and the reimbursements. So as the strata committee, once they have one of these installed, they can actually set the price. And then you as the user come along, you plug your charger in. So you'll be in your own dedicated parking spot. You come home, you plug in, charge your vehicle, end of the session, our network collects that money. And then on a monthly basis, we reimburse that money back to the owners corporation. So in part of our network, there's no ongoing fees for the host. So once the strata committee actually purchase the device, have it installed, there's no ongoing cost for them. So all our commission is paid for by the end user. So it's a win-win solution. Because what we're finding with Strata is they don't want to fund. John doesn't want to pay for Gary to charge his EV.
Yeah.
Okay. How much as an example, what sort of premium are you paying for this over you plugging it into your house? It's going to be more expensive electricity when you go to an external charger, like if you go to the mall or something. How much are these cats charging over and above just plugging it into your house power?
Yeah, we've actually got a really good case study that was written up recently by a journalist, and Merrick can probably go through the numbers. So we have a customer that tried to get EV charging into his apartment parking space for about 4 years, wasn't it, Merrick? And they just kept knocking back. The building didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't want to pay for the expense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He came across our solution. The building approved it because it was really, it was kind of like a net zero solution. I shouldn't use the term net zero. It's got too many implications, sorry. But, what were the numbers?
So 4 years, throughout those 4 years, he'd supercharge twice a week at the local supercharger. So not only would he spend roughly 2 hours a week, he was paying around 60 to 70 cents per kilowatt. So at the moment, he's paying 32 cents a kilowatt, and that includes our commission. So he's saving 2 hours a week, and he's only paying half the amount of money.
And that's referring to one of these? That's one of these things on the street or at the mall?
Yes. Yeah, similar to.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that he's winning. He's happy, he's saving time and half his money.
Yeah, definitely. So
it's convenient, right? You just come here, you come home, you plug in.
Yeah, great. And are you finding people have an appetite to upgrade their standard PowerPoint to a level 2? Is that something people are doing, or they're just going, it's too expensive at the moment, too complicated with strata?
I think that people think that they do need level 2 charging to be able to, have enough power to get through the next 24 hours. Because when it comes to charging a vehicle, the psychology changes. It's no longer about going to the servo once a week and getting a tank of fuel and riding off that. It's more about, it's like charging your mobile phone. You don't let your phone get to zero before you top it up. It's all about the incident top-ups. So, the average Aussie only needing 38 kilometres a day means 3 hours of charging. So even if you're only topped up every third day, you've got enough charge in an overnight charge to get you through another 3 days. If you and I were sitting at a cafe right now and there was a charge pad between us, I guarantee you that one of us would have our phones on it.
Sure, yeah, I can understand.
So
it also depends on the use case. Like
every car space. Are you guys putting it in every car space in a unit block, or are you that people own their own car spaces, or are you guys putting it in like a visitor space?
So we can do either, but our solution is kind of built for every parking spot. And the concept, the reason behind why you can put it in every parking spot is that it's a 2.4 kilowatt, 10 amp solution, opposed to 7 kilowatts, 7 to 22 kilowatts, which requires so much more power. And it's just, if you take a step back, there's not enough power in the grid, in a suburb, in a street, in a block, in an apartment block, to be able to, provide sufficient power to all of those 7 to 22 kilowatt chargers at the same time.
Yep.
Not only that, our smart point can actually load manage. So let's say your building only has a capacity to have 5 running at any given time. You might have 10 parking spots. So you can put one in every spot, and our software will automatically work out that queue. So the first 5 will charge. When user number 6 comes along, his session won't actually start until one of the earlier ones ends. So no longer, if you want to put one in every spot, you don't have to actually go and do a building upgrade. So in a few years' time, once we are hitting these limits, then the buildings can go, okay, look, we're hitting this limitation. Let's look at doing the full building upgrade now instead of doing it right now. You know what I mean? So when there's no need for it.
Great. That must be popular.
How much?
12.
Today only for you, Mark, it's $3.99. And if you call in the next 15 minutes, we'll throw in a free sign.
But that sounds like a bargain, though.
Yeah, so it's $3.99. There's no ongoing cost, as I mentioned earlier, but we do charge a 10-cent commission per kilowatt. That is paid for by the end user. So like I mentioned before, so let's say the strata building want to charge their guests and residents 20 cents a kilowatt. We bump that up to 30. So we collect 30 cents a kilowatt off the user. At the end of the month, we reimburse the strata committee that 20 cents that they wanted. So they can actually charge whatever rate they want, and we just add our 10 cents to that. And what we're finding is most strata buildings don't actually put a profit on, they're just doing a pass-through. We have many Airbnbs, for example, that are putting these in, and they're actually putting a profit on top because that's their main purpose, is to profit off the guests. So that's also another use case that we have. It's an affordable way for short-term rental properties to provide EV charging services for guests.
Yeah, well,
Stunning. Now you guys will do the strata paperwork, you'll do the installation, you'll supply it, you'll do the backbone. So you're like a one-stop, end-to-end, full one-stop shop. Alchemy Charge.
Yeah, so
Yes.
we provide the hardware. So we provide the hardware to the electricians. The electrician can be your own, or you can go to, you can jump on our website and you can have a look at our network of electricians in your area. It doesn't have to be a specialized electrician. Any licensed electrician can install our product. The second it has power, we're told it's easier to install than a PowerPoint because you only need to connect 3 cables. The moment it has power, 12 seconds and it's on our network. So it's instantly functional.
So what's that got, like and it's got a 4G card or something inside it, does it? How does it commute? That's you don't need they don't need to go on to, you don't need internet for them.
Yeah, so we've got 2 different versions. So one is Wi-Fi and one is 4G on the Telstra network. So depending on your use case, majority of properties have Wi-Fi. If they don't, you can go to the cellular version. There is a SIM card cost per month, which is around $12. But the majority of buildings, because they're looking at putting one in every spot, they do end up getting a centralized Wi-Fi installation done.
That's incredible.
Well, I think this is helping a lot of people. So many people are looking for electric car spaces in their building. Buildings not being proactive enough to do it just yet. But it sounds like this is pretty simple.
Yeah,
Definitely.
super
So
simple.
Yeah, super
Go on,
simple.
Mary. We're talking over each other.
Well, you should give them the Waterloo example.
Yeah, so we have a building that we're working with in Waterloo, and they want to electrify every parking spot. So they went out to their residents and they did a survey, and the results came back that 60% of people in their next vehicle will be an electric vehicle, and 20% said that their next vehicle will be a plug-in hybrid. So, we're talking about 80% of residents will need a form of charging in the next, 2 to 3 years when they upgrade their vehicles. So what that meant was that the committee and the management went and looked into charging solutions. They looked at putting 7 kilowatts, so level 2, the base of level 2 charging into every parking spot. And the result was that there was a need for an electrical backbone upgrade, totally expected. And in addition to that, so that was going to be $770,000. And that's just the backbone alone. I should take a step back and say was it 290 parking spots, Merrich?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for 290 parking spots, it was going to be 770 grand in electrical backbone. And then on top of that, for every lot owner, it was going to be an $8,000 hardware and an installation cost. So Strata's picking up the 770 bill, the lot owner is picking up the $8,000. There's ongoing fees. So, when you've got that many devices, they have to be networked. So there's a fee that is attached to that. They need to be load managed. There's a fee that's attached to that. They need maintenance, and it was stacking up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So they kind of came to us once we came to market. So we've been in market for about 18 months now. And they said, look, what would your solution look like in our building? And, we went in with our team and we did our assessment. The backbone is going to be $170,000. So 170 opposed to 770. So, a huge saving. And in addition to that, for each lot owner, it's going to be $1,000 for supply and install, so the hardware and the install. And there's no ongoing fees to the building or to the lot owner. It's the ongoing fees are paid by the end user. So if you're plugging your car in, you're paying for the privilege. And yeah, so that's one example of what it looks like for the strata committees, opposed to looking at it from the end user, which was the example that Merrich gave, saving 2 hours and halving your charging costs.
And in some case, the end user will be the owner. Do I understand that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's whoever is using that parking spot.
Yeah. So I guess they're paying a little bit more, per use, but the installation cost and getting it going is just, more than half.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. And your system is a level 1, similar to the plug version?
Yeah, so it is a level 1. You utilize the portable charge cable that comes with your car.
Yeah. I think this is going to help a lot of people, guys. And
Guys love the product.
You don't need to be a building to get one, right? You can be just a one-man show.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
we've got places, we've got Airbnbs. Like there's so many use cases, because at the end of the day, it's PowerPoint. It's a pay-per-use PowerPoint. So we've got buildings using it for e-mobility to charge electric scooters and bikes. Got caravan parks looking into it. Like there's just so many use cases when you step back and look at it. End of the day, you can plug anything into it.
Yeah, brilliant. Flavio's got a comment. Sounds like an entire new market being developed off the back of EVs. Yet he gave a major power crisis with respect to baseland. What about on-site battery / solar for EV charging? Any comments there?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got an on-site battery and you have access to solar, that's the way to do it. And solar has been a bit of a hard sell into the strata space. And we obviously speak to some of these solar installers and solar, like solution architects, for example. Wattblock does a lot of work in this space, and it's definitely the solution. If I can take it a step back and talk about, we don't live in a strata building, but we do have solar at home. We have a 16 kilowatt system, which actually means that we can charge, on a nice sunny day, we can charge both of our cars at the same time for free. Absolute winner. If we had a battery, it would be even better. But when you look at things like vehicle to X, so vehicle to grid or vehicle to home, which has just been approved in Australia, it's definitely the future, and it's unbelievably exciting. For a power sustainability nerd like myself, that's where you really start getting excited.
Yeah.
Guys, there's so much to talk about. We're going to get you on again. We've had a lot of viewers this morning and some good questions. So thank you so much for your time. Before we go, anything else we've got to mention, guys?
Alchemycharge.com.au. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can reach out to Merrich or myself. Anyone in the team, we're all very excited and receptive to talk to you.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time,
so
guys.
much.
That's
Take
good.
care,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
Cheers. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.